what we're seeing is that these judges are showing their hand. They're showing that their real sympathies are with some of these absolutely horrific gang members, Tren de Aragua, MS-13, hardened criminals, and they are very concerned about the due process rights of these people and also about their treatment in prison. Now, here we see an article in PBS talking about the prison in El Salvador. The prison doesn't offer workshops or educational programs to prepare people to return to society after their sentences. I'm sure this is true. In fact, I think at one point I heard Bukele saying, we don't plan to return these people anywhere. They're here to be incarcerated. These are essentially habitual, lifelong criminals, bad guys, and it's not good for society to see them back on the street. But what I'm highlighting here is the tender solicitousness for the conditions in prison. Now, notice that when January 6th prisoners were thrown into conditions, they were in the DC gulag. You have all these Haitian and Jamaican guards. The guards are black. Some of the prisoners are white. The black guards are taunting them, bullying them, denying them foods, throwing them into solitary confinement. You didn't see any judicial concerns. You didn't see very many media concerns. And you certainly didn't see Democrats saying, we need to examine these facilities. We need to make sure that there are, to quote the PBS article, workshops and educational programs being offered to John. No, they didn't care. And so the conclusion to be drawn, and there's no other conclusion to be drawn, is that, that the left cares more about Tren de Aragua than it does, for example, about Republicans. I don't see another way to interpret this disjunction, this contradiction, this dual set of facts. Here's a leftist on the Bulwark, which is the Never Trump site, and he's railing about a guy named Andres, quote, a gay Venezuelan man who was sent to an El Salvador prison camp, quote, with no due process. Now, first of all, I don't think that we need to take the facts as supplied by the left at face value. Most of the time, they will tell you one thing and suppress another thing. So let's just say, for example, this guy's a gay Venezuelan man, but guess what else he did? We're not going to tell you any of that. We're just going to tell you he's a gay man, so we're going to give you the idea that the only reason he's being deported is because he's gay. No. He's not being deported for being gay. We should not go along with this. And here's the Bulwark guy. It's evil, and anyone involved with it is evil, blah, 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 blah. So again, this is the pattern I'm describing here. This guy is exercised about the gay Venezuelan who has been erroneous. And again, these are people who didn't care when Laken Riley was killed. A big deal. All these mothers are grieving because their daughters were raped and murdered by illegals. Big deal. That's what happens. You know what? We want to bring in all these people. They're going to be some gang members. They're going to be some, MS-13. What do you expect, Dinesh? So the left is quite willing, when it makes its own omelets, to break a whole bunch of eggs. And yet suddenly they are now become the moral referees of our society, telling us how we need to feel. Look, in the old days, we'd get all worked up about all this and try to explain ourselves and justify our compassion. We really don't need to do any of that. I think our attitude should be simply a little more, I would call it anthropological. Just kind of note the peculiarity of the behavior of the Bulwark and the people of the Bulwark, and then just kind of snicker at them. We don't get all worked up. We don't demand to know more information about the Venezuelan guy. There's a process underway. These people have been designated terrorists. And guess what? Whenever government steps in, makes rules, makes designations, you're going to have people treated as members of a collective. And so it's kind of like saying, when they decided, let's round up the January 6th defendants, they didn't make fine discrimination. So here's a grandma. She was only in there for 10 minutes, so we're not going to charge her. No, they charged her too. And so that's the way that these generalities work. And the only reason the left is shrieking is it's now happening to them. Tariff wars, recession fears, stubborn inflation. In this confusing and turbulent environment, gold, not too surprisingly, has been routinely hitting all-time highs. Debbie and I own gold, so we're benefiting from it. In volatile markets like right now, you don't want to sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You want to take control, safeguard your savings, and this is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. Debbie and I have. They've helped tens of thousands of people, including us, convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Isn't it time for you to find out if you can hedge against inflation, protect yourself, and also against economic instability with gold? So to learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, here's how you get started. Text Dinesh to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation information kit. Again, text my name, Dinesh, to the number 989898. Birch Gold has an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and I count on Birch Gold to help me protect my savings with gold, and you can too. It took us decades, really, to get into the tangled mess that they're trying to unpack now. Well, how long will it take to get out of it, and at what cost? You protect yourself. Text Dinesh to 989898 today.